Okay, it's 7 o'clock. Welcome, everybody. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Today's a special board meeting agenda. I'd like to board roll call, please.
Okay, Supervisor Wilhoit.
Here.
Trustee Bowman.
Here.
Trustee Boss.
Here.
Trustee Sam.
Here.
Trustee Ziegler.
Here.
And me.
Wonderful. If everybody could stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Everyone for joining tonight's meeting. I just wanted to, before we begin, to review the agenda and expectations for participation so that everyone has the opportunity to be heard. First of all, we open with the first thing on the agenda, which is on all the sheets, is public comment. But that's public comment that doesn't have to do with the water project. So if there's no one here that doesn't need to speak about it, we're going to skip that. Next, we're going to have representatives from CLC Jawa provide their presentation regarding the proposed waterline project. They brought posters, handouts for attendance, and also cookies if anybody needs to stay awake if it gets to be running late. After the presentation, we'll open public comment to specific to the water project. We have a podium and microphone here. Each speaker will have up to 5 minutes, and the clerk will be monitoring the time. We'll begin with individuals who have signed in, and each person will have one opportunity to speak so that everyone has a chance to participate. I ask that all comments remain respectful and civil. Interruptions or cross discussions will not be permitted so that we can conduct the meeting in an orderly manner. Following public comment, this is so you're aware, I'm going to ask for a motion and a second from the board to approve this project. This is so that we can discuss the project. There's a high chance that we're going to be postponing the vote until next week, but we need to ask for a motion and a second to discuss it in public. So I just want to make everyone aware of that. The board may postpone the vote until Wednesday, March 11th to allow additional time to review the information presented and consider what best serves residents of the township. Thank you for your cooperation. We will now begin with the first public comment period. Does anyone have any public comment that is not water related? Not expecting any, but I just wanted to open it up just in case. Okay, well then we can move to number 5. The Lake Desert Water Expansion Project. I'd like to welcome Mike Brown from the Lake Desert Public Works Director, Bill Cece with the CLC Jawa Executive Director, Amru Atashi with CDM Smith Project Director, Grant Bullard with CLC Jawa, Director of Operations, Matt Remble, CDM Smith Project Manager, and Melanie Carvajal, CDM Outreach Coordinator, who some of you might have spoken to already. We'll discuss the project, frequently asked questions, followed by the Village of Lewisburg. So, Mr. Cece, if you'd like to start.
All right. So the game plan tonight from our team here is to focus on your questions in our presentation, and I will explain who we are and what we're asking for. That's going to take me about 5 minutes. Then our engineer, Matt Remble from CDM Smith, on our engineering team, he's going to explain the project to you. That's going to take about 10 minutes. Then I'm going to address a few key topics from the FAQ. That'll take me about 10 minutes, so about 25 minutes of us talking and kind of presenting this to you. And then Mike will give a few thoughts from Lake Zurich's point of view, and then we're going to listen to your comments and answer whatever questions you might have. So, Ela Township Supervisor Wilhoit, trustees, and residents, we appreciated the opportunity to address the Committee of the Whole public meeting in January, the opportunity to hear all of you ask a lot of questions at the February meeting, and the opportunity to follow up this evening to the FAQ that we published and are going to discuss this evening. We also appreciate all of the questions and input that we've received since that time. It really helps us to focus more on what your concerns are. So the first thing is the Central Lake County Joint Action Water Agency and our partner, Lake Zurich, are spearheading this project. So it's Mike and myself and our team, of course. Who is ultimately responsible for this project? CLC Jawa is the entity that will be going out for bids. We will be signing the contracts. We will construct, own, operate, and maintain the pipeline. The Village of Lake Zurich will reimburse 100% of expenses. So it's ultimately CLC Jawa that's asking you to use the township right away. CLC Jawa is not a private company. We are a municipal water agency formed in the mid-1980s under the Illinois Intergovernmental Cooperation Act. Our founding communities completed their water system in 1992 to provide themselves with Lake Michigan water. The CLC Jawa Board of Directors that I work for is composed primarily of mayors from the 13 communities that we serve, and it also includes a Lake County board member who represents several subdivisions where the Lake County Public Works Department provides them water. My board meets in public meetings at our facility in Lake Bluff, as posted on our website. You're always welcome to come to our public meetings. Or if you're so inclined, would like to come see the water plant, you and your scouts and other groups are welcome to come for a tour. You may not have heard of CLC Jawa before, but we're the third largest water utility in the state of Illinois. We have a world-class water treatment facility, and we provide an average of 20 million gallons of water per day to communities in Central Lake County. On the east side would be Lake Bluff. On the north side, Gurnee and Lindenhurst. On the west side would be Wakanda and Volo. And on the south end would be Mundelein and soon Lake Zurich. And pretty much all the municipalities in between that circle. We've installed 55 miles of pipeline in just about every land use area you can imagine. Under rivers, the railroad, the interstate, around numerous gas and electric utilities of all sizes, around daycares, elementary schools, intermediate schools, high schools, fire stations, commercial and industrial properties, and through subdivisions, front yards, backyards, side yards. I don't say any of this to boast. I say this to emphasize that what we're asking you to do is something we've done repeatedly before. So what exactly are we asking of the township? We're asking for authorization to use the township's Eagle Drive public right-of-way for a CLC Jawa drinking water pipeline and its appurtenances to most economically serve some water supplies in the township, including most significantly Lake Zurich. So with that introduction, I'll now introduce Matt and Anu. If you guys could walk everyone through the project.
Okay. I'm trying to go without the mic, if that's all right. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. So one of the questions we heard when we sat in the audience last month was, how do we get here? How do we even get to the point of talking about Eagle Drive? So I thought I'd step through, how as engineers are we deciding what route to take when we're selecting where a pipeline should be installed. And so all these studies generally start with the study phase, very high level. We're looking, one, we know where the CLC Jawa system is, which is over there on the right, the circle. And we know we have a point to get to in Lake Zurich. So we look at all different routes or pathways to get there. We usually call these corridors. We're looking for straight shots. If we can go straight east-west, north-south, try to get there as efficiently as possible. We're looking to determine, one, is the route that we're looking at even feasible? So to get water from point A to point B, you have to pump it. So how big do those pumps need to be? Can they be made that big? How much energy is it going to take to operate this over the lifetime of the system? That's step one, selecting a route, making sure it's feasible. We're also looking at constructability. Can the pipeline be constructed under certain roadway pathways, open space? And then we look at what restrictions might be out there, what stakeholders are along the routes, what restrictions do they have to working within either the right-of-way or in private property. Also, who do we impact? So, just looking at one of the biggest things we look at there are traffic counts when we're working in roadways. How much traffic is going down there? How much, if we're taking a lane of traffic, how many people is that going to impact? So we look at all that, we weigh all those, and we ultimately came up with this, what we call a preferred route to get from the existing CLC Java system to Lake Surrey. Again, very high level. After the study phase, we really get into design, and that's where we start collecting a lot of data. So we're looking at soil data. Survey is a big one. We're looking for all the utilities that might be out there. That includes the ones that you can see above ground and those that are buried below ground. We're looking for wetlands, making sure not to impact any sensitive environmental areas. And we're looking at what existing uses of right-of-way are already there. So I think during the last meeting, a lot of people were noting that there is a project on Route 83 up at Diamond Lake. And if you can see here, our alignment's already starting to shift to start trying to avoid potential overlap with that project. We have something similar at Old McHenry. They're looking to do, I forget, an overpass or underpass with the railway. So we're adjusting that. So those very straight lines that we saw in the previous one are already starting to adjust based off more information as we've obtained it. And that gets us zoomed into the Eagle Drive versus Diamond Lake. So initially, yes, Diamond Lake was the route we were looking at. That was part of the preferred route. Ideally, we install it right in the middle of the pavement or to the edge of the pavement or within that existing right-of-way. It's one property owner, which is Lake County in this instance. Right, so it's just that's where we're looking at, right in the middle of the road. But when we started doing that, three things popped up right off the bat. In talking to LCDOT, they have restrictions on where you can install the pipeline. So even though it looks like a significant amount of space to install a pipeline, right off the bat we were told we cannot install beneath the pavement. So that pushes us off to the fringes, into the shoulders. And that's where the survey came in, where we saw that there are already existing utilities on both sides of the road that would, impact and would either have to be relocated or would actually push us further away from the edge of the road. And then on the west side of the road, there is that existing berm that comes up to the edge of the road. And if we were to stay within the right-of-way, then we are starting to dig into the toe of the berm. And that could, make that unstable. It just offers a challenge during construction. We talked about traffic counts. Diamond Lake Road is a more highly trafficked road, about 5,300 vehicles a day. So any work that extends into the pavement would require a lane reduction or some portion of a lane reduction, which would impact traffic. And then we started looking, okay, so maybe we push a little bit further out, and that's where we would have to obtain some private easements. And some of the concerns there was that just where those existing utilities are, we'd have to push that easement probably 35 feet beyond the right-of-way into the properties. And so for people on the east side of the road, that means a lot of work going on right in the front yards with a lot of tree impacts. West side, we have that berm and a lot of tree impacts and some wetlands. So we then looked to Eagle Drive, and that's where some of these, there were notable differences between the two. So this Eagle actually provides the space to work within the road. That's just ideal for us. We don't have to ask all the property owners along the road for the right to install in their front yards. Long-term maintenance, CLC Jawa, if they ever need to access the pipeline, it's right there. It's available on the road. We don't have the wetlands and the stream crossings. The traffic is more easily managed. And then, we don't have to talk about removing trees or anything else that might affect property owners. I think the second question we heard a lot in February last month's meeting was, what's going to happen when construction actually starts? So I figured I'd just walk through what we've seen on prior projects. So before the pipeline even gets installed, there would be a crew out there, and they are doing some pre-construction activities. They're actually locating utilities or working with that utility company to pinpoint where that actual utility is so that nothing's hit during construction. They'll take photos to capture what conditions looked like before construction started, and that helps resolve any issues that might happen as a result of construction. And we'll install some instruments just to measure construction impacts. When the pipeline crew does start coming through, the first thing that you could expect to see is an excavator. They'll be out front and they'll be digging a trench. So this trench, what we expect is it to be 6 foot wide, and we expect it to be at least 8 feet deep. That excavator, he's got a bucket on the end of his arm, which I'm sorry got cut off, but he'll load into dump trucks to dispose of the soil. Coming right behind that, they'll install what's called a trench box. There's some sort of trench safety measures so that workers can work safely down in the trench. And then they'll come and they'll strap up a section of pipe, usually about 15 to 20 feet, get it in the ground, and then a second crew is following them. As that pipe's being installed, all of a sudden they're coming in with a front-end loader here with a bucket. They're installing gravel all the way from the bottom of the trench to cover the pipe up to the surface of the road. And that gravel does get compacted. And so just a couple of pictures here. We have a driveway here on the left. This was actually just existing concrete, but over to the right here is where our trench was. And so you can see they have come through, they filled it with stone, they've compacted it. That can be accessed by vehicle. The driveway is accessible. If for whatever reason they were slow or delayed for a day, here's another driveway. This is just down, the gravel's probably just down maybe 6 inches or so. To allow access, they can install plates to allow cars to drive over that. After that pipeline gets installed, you'll have a third crew at this point, just separately. They'll fall back and they'll install fire hydrants, which we'll talk a little bit more about. You might see this little candy cane looking feature that's just letting air escape from the pipeline from below. We also have to complete a crossing of Diamond Lake. That will be a separate crew altogether working on that. And then when all that is installed, the crew will come in, they'll fill the pipe with water, and they'll pressurize it. And that's to be able to test the pipe for leaks. Once that is accepted by the engineer, let's go for restoration. And that's when we'll get a new asphalt road. I think some of the other questions that came up, when would we be working? At this point, we'd be falling back to Lake County noise ordinances, which is Monday through Friday between 7 and 7. Generally, these guys work 7 to 3:30, 7 to 4, but they would have the ability to extend if they needed to. Saturdays generally aren't, that work isn't completed, but they would be allowed under the contract to go from 8 to 5. Access, obviously a big question that came up. The neighborhood does have access to both Diamond Lake and Indian Creek Road. At least one of those is open fully at all times. We would not be working at both. same time. Similarly, within the neighborhood, when we have to cross Tahoe or Arrowhead, they also have 2 intersections. We would not allow the contractor to work on those 2 intersections at the same time. And driveways, with the production rate expected through the neighborhood, we would be expecting that driveway is excavated, pipeline installed, stone backfilled by the end of the day that they start. There might be some instances where they have to go into that second day. That's where we start talking about that steel plate to make sure everybody can still access their driveway. Communication, we'll have it in the contract that, if Eagle Drive is selected, that residents will be notified before the start of construction. So we have pre-construction meetings as a requirement. We'll make sure that notifications get out. Hey, we'll be in the neighborhood we expect it to be, and we'll give, a range. And then once we get closer to that, we'll drop another notification. There'll be a representative of CLC Java on site every day. This is what we call a resident engineer, familiar with the design, familiar with the requirements of the contract. That's everybody's first point of contact if there's an issue. What's up, Melody, who's our outreach lead, whose contact information I think everybody has. When we are going to cross the driveway, we will leave a flyer on your door at least a day before, so that you know that next day we would be outside digging. And then CLC Java will have continual updates on their website. Street sweeping will be part of the contract. Usually that's a weekly requirement. If there's a lot of dust and dirt out there, though, we'll make sure to mobilize the street sweeper to clean that up. That's all I had on background. If you want to talk about some of the FAQs.
Yeah, so now I'd like to cover 2 things in the FAQ, and we kind of get part of it already in that FAQ. So in our FAQ, we've addressed the questions that we received to date from listening at our last meeting, and a lot of emails, in-person visits, and phone calls since then. So we're going to start with the one that is most near and dear to our hearts, and that is your concerns about your private wells. We've all been involved in providing drinking water to people for decades. I myself have done so for 30 years plus of my career. My first 4 years were working as a research chemist at Culligan in research and development. And I moved to CLC Java, where I was the water quality lab supervisor for 17 years. Water quality is my passion. I'm going to give myself away. It's why my license plate is H2O. Hopefully my tires are still inflated when I leave. Both Grant and I are certified Class A Illinois EPA operators. I understand the importance that your water supply has to your family and to your home. Just as I understand the importance of the water that my team makes every day provides to so many people in Lake County. 250,000 people drink our water every day. Some of those are brand new babies being born. Some are seniors and assisted living places. They're all drinking our water right now. So we take it very seriously. The water supply cannot be interrupted, and it has to be safe at all times. That's true for us, and it's true for you. I want you to know sincerely, I'm sorry I'm shaking. I shake when I get nervous. Don't pay any attention to it. So let me explain why we believe our wells are safe, your wells are safe. First, we'll be excavating a 6 to 8 foot trench in the right-of-way. That's about 40 feet away from your wellheads horizontally and more than 100 feet away vertically. Second, during construction, it is our practice to require continuous instrument monitoring and vibration monitoring of structures, including well infrastructure, that's located within 50 feet of the excavation. That data is reviewed and monitored daily by the resident engineer to make sure that the contractor is not creating more vibrations than we thought they would create that might impact your well structure. Third, we consulted with the Lake County Health Department, Environmental Health Division, Water Well Manager. That's the person responsible for inspecting, approving, and monitoring the private wells in Lake County, including your neighborhood. I discussed with them what we are proposing for Eagle Drive and its relation to your private wells. We asked if he has any concerns. We asked, is there anything we can do to make sure that we don't negatively impact your wells? Indicated that they have no concerns with the proposed work. They have no concerns that it will impact your wells or with the water quality. They noted that our work is not in the same aquifer that your wells are drawing from. Fourth, there is no federal, state, or local regulations regarding how close a water pipeline or its construction can pass within a wellhead. There are regulations about setbacks related to contamination sources, which would include, for instance, your sanitary systems, your septic systems. A water pipeline and its construction are not points of contamination. After receiving feedback to our first FAQ, we contacted a well driller that services wells in your community. We wanted to get his input and to gather information from people that are actually in your yards doing the work. He indicated that many wells in your subdivision are over 200, up to 250 feet deep, that they end in limestone. A few of them are 100 feet deep, ending in gravel and sand veins. The wells are protected with many feet of clay from grade downward. And we asked if he had any concerns or suggestions, concerns about your wells, or suggestions for us of precautions we should take when installing a pipeline. He indicated he did not. Finally, as you might imagine, we have 55 miles of pipeline constructed in Lake County. We've worked around wells before. We installed a 30-inch pipeline within 5 feet of a well in Round Lake. We have other other pipelines running in 2 cases with the most recent project within 10 feet of the well. There was no impact to the well reported to us during construction by the owner or any impact since then. It is based on this information, our own experience, and the opinions of these experts that we believe your wells are safe. The next related question that we heard last month is, okay, will you guarantee that? Based on the information we've gathered and our experience in the past, and because your wells are subject to many factors that are beyond our control, we don't know what condition your wells are in, the groundwater, your septic system, your water use, weather patterns, etc. We cannot guarantee your wells. However, our contractors will be instructed to make every effort to avoid harming your wells. Our resident person on site is going to make sure they don't go near your wells. Our contractors will be bonded and insured, and CLC Jawa will work with the township and property owners to address all construction-related issues, whether it be wells or impacts to your landscape. And I do want to emphasize, we're not a private company based in New Jersey. We're in Lake Bluff. We have public meetings. You have public meetings here. So we're going to be very respectful of your property, and you have some recourse if for some reason that doesn't occur. So that's what I have to say about the wells. Many commenters have also asked variations of the question, why Eagle Drive and why not Diamond Lake? May I address some of that? So I want to start with why CLC Jawa prefers public right-of-ways over easements on private property. So right-of-way is specifically used for utilities throughout the country because they provide ready access for construction and ongoing maintenance. And they are public property that's set aside for the common good. That is how we initially viewed Diamond Lake Road before we determined that easements would be required on private property. And it's now why we're looking at Eagle Drive. Eagle Drive provides us a public right-of-way. The use of public right-of-way provides us unrestricted access to critical community infrastructure. It avoids long-term property access disputes. We have hundreds of easements, and they're kind of a pain. It requires single-point township coordination rather than coordinating with multiple property owners when we need to access the site. They reduce the impact on private property landscaping and yard features. So we have to take down trees, remove landscaping for our easements. They avoid conflict when property ownership changes and when conflicting structures or plantings are accidentally put on the easement, which we can find the next year, and now we have a very uncomfortable situation. It keeps community infrastructure within publicly controlled and monitored corridors already established for the public good rather than on private property. This is why we prefer rights of way to easements. So the last thing I wanted to note is our proposed use of the township road to serve water to some township residents, but not to others. It's not unprecedented. CLC Jawa use Chardon Road in Fremont Township. The folks on that road, very rural area, the road actually dead ends, have private wells along it. The pipeline went right down that road, past their wells, on a township road to serve Wakanda. The thinking there is that it's a township road, so some folks are going to be able to get it. They wanted to join us. In particular, they wanted to hook up to the pipe, and it's a very tough sell. Trust me, it's awkward to tell you folks, we want to run a pipe in front of your house, and you can't have the water. It's a tough sell. But they too were frustrated that we would cause disruption with construction that did not directly benefit them. But they too now have the very real benefit of improved firefighting capability with access to Lake Michigan water. And in the end, none of those wells were affected. That was reported to us anyways. And their property was returned to like or better condition. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Mike. Mike is the Public Works Director at Lakeside.
Thank you, everybody. I'll be short and sweet because I think these guys have really hit all the main points. But I just want to take this moment to thank the Gila Board, thank the residents of Gila Township for us to be considered for this historic project. This is something that we've worked many, many years to try and make happen. And albeit I know there's going to be some inconveniences, but I want to give you the assurance and touch on what Bill said was, we're here. We're not going anywhere. Bill's here. His team's not going anywhere. You have full access to us at any time to voice your concerns. The RE on site, it's critical that he's going to get to know you folks on a name-to-name basis. They want that customer service. They want to be there. They want to know your concerns. If there's an emergency situation, they want to be able to communicate and get you in and out as quickly as possible. We do these projects. I know you don't like to hear that, we're not brushing out the inconvenience, but we do these projects every year, and it's our goal to get in as quickly as possible and as efficient as possible and restore your lives back to normal. Make it and let everyday life happen. We're here. We want to be a partner with you, with the township. We appreciate that.
Thank you. Thanks for the presentation. If there's nothing else, we'll go to public comment. As I stated, we're going to go with people who signed in first. The first person on the list is Ashley Gerardo G. Nuclear.
I really don't have any questions.
She doesn't have any questions. Thank you. James Hale. Come up to the mic.
Hello, my name is James Hale, and I live on Eagle Drive. So, just want to give a quick bottom line up front, which is I have no opposition to Lakeshore getting water from Lake Michigan. The problem is it seems to be that it's kind of getting rushed through. There hasn't been approval from Longshore. There hasn't been approval from Diamond Lake School District, but you're trying to push this through right now with most of us only knowing this for a few weeks. It really seems like there needs to be a little bit more due diligence. I'm glad you identified one road where you went down that had wells. However, it'd be nice to know if you've ever had claims in any project running by wells and how those claims for damages were dealt with, were people paid when they reported damage to the wells. Let's see. I also want to make a comment to the board. I'm sure that a number of you actually live in Lake Zurich or in places that are going to get the water. So I would have you consider whether there's a potential conflict of interest in the fact that the purpose of going down Eagle Drive needs to be to save money, so there's a financial benefit to you to go down our street instead of one of the other 5 possible routes that were identified on the report. I do want to point out that my well is much closer than 50 feet to the pavement. It's more like less than 30 feet to the pavement. So I am very interested to know what it's going to be like when my well is inside the construction zone as you defined it. Okay. Let me answer some other questions I'm going on my list. Okay, I have more questions about the impact on the residents during construction. What's the actual decibel level of this typical construction? Our homes were not designed to be soundproof against industrial level construction. And the sound from just the recent repaving project was too loud for people to work in their homes. And a number of people do work in their homes on Eagle Drive. Not to mention the impact on the sensitive ears of pets. Can Jawa guarantee uninterrupted electricity, phones, and gas? Some people, if they can't have electricity, they're not going to be able to work from home. They're going to have business losses, or they're going to have paid time off they're going to have to take from work. What kind of compensation do you have for that? I mentioned about electricity. Our wells don't work. It's hot. We don't have electricity. And we don't have the high-speed internet. Again, we can't work from home. This is not a question, but a statement that, our enjoyment of our property includes walking, running on the streets. We don't have sidewalks. People push their children in strollers or wagons on the streets. Children and adults ride their bikes, walk their dogs. And so we're losing a significant part of our lives when the street is unavailable to us. Also, I'm very curious about the actual impact on Diamond Lake School, the school buses, the parking there, and what is the plan to use that Lake Road or the Diamond Lake Road entrance for construction crews throughout the project? Have you actually been watching how the bus and car traffic works around that intersection with the Diamond Lake School? Have traffic studies for that intersection been done? The school operates year-round. How is the school supposed to get small children in and out if you're blocking the entrance? And please don't just say that you're coordinating with the school. We actually have an interest in knowing how the children in our neighborhood are supposed to be getting in and out of school. Have you spoken with Stevenson High School about the impact on their buses? Likewise, any of the other schools using Indian Creek Road. My last point is on the fire hydrants. This seems to be the only potential benefit to residents of our neighborhood. Will these hydrants provide enough water to extinguish a house fire? And what will be the effective range of these hydrants? Our properties are large and spaced out. What about residents who are not on Eagle Drive? How many of them will benefit from having the fire hydrants along Eagle Drive?
Sure, I'm going to have to cut you off. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Thank you. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.
Wow, great. I love it.
Thank you. Did you want to answer any other questions?
Okay, so I'll just... Some of these you might have to get back to them, but let's try to answer as much as possible. So, Long Grove, we are coordinating with all the local municipalities. We've met with the village manager, I think, 4 times so far in Long Grove. and he is aware of what we're doing, and so far he's asking us just to continue. We're in the process of working through it. He understands what we're doing, so he's comfortable with what we're doing. With regards to claims, with the wells. You asked, have we ever hit a well, impacted a well? If we did, was there ever a claim filed? How much, etc.? We have never damaged a well. There's never been a claim. There's never been a claim against us for any property damage, ever. And I'm sorry, I'm getting a little intense. I didn't mean to be intense. I'm a little stressed out. You said your well's within 30 feet of the pavement. So is that going to be in the construction? If it's within 30 feet of the pavement, is that in the construction zone?
So not the construction zone. I think what we had mentioned before is that we would put the instrumentation on wells that are within 50 feet of the construction zone. So that would be a candidate for an instrument.
You asked about the decibel levels. It's going to be backhoes digging up ground. It will be dump trucks moving in to get dirt. It'll be things backing up, going 8 feet, 8. You will hear them pulling the trench box through the trench. There will be construction noise while we're there. Typically, we move. These contractors want to get in and out as fast as possible because time is money. So typically, they'll install pipe in hundreds of feet a day. So I think we have a half mile on Eagle. And I think the production rates that we've had in our previous were, what is the range like for an Eagle Drive? How many hundred feet a day do they typically do?
Yeah, I think to follow up on what you said, if they're not getting 200 feet a day, that contractor is not doing well, and he's got bigger problems. I think in a residential neighborhood like this, we see 200 to 300, and we can push up to 400 feet a day.
So that's about how fast we're moving down the road. And I'm not trying to paint a rosy picture. They're going to put gravel in there, and that gravel's going to be there a while. Until the job's finished, until other work is done. You asked about, can we guarantee electric, gas, and phone? No, we cannot. If those things happen, if they get hit, we address it as quickly as possible. Obviously, our contractor has no interest in doing that because it stops them, and we have no interest in making you frustrated with us. Is there compensation for interruption? So let's say that we do hit electrical or anything, and you're unable to work from home. Is there compensation for interrupting you or losing, having you not be able to work from home? No, there is not. I suppose if it was some very long thing, there might be some insurance claim or something of that nature. Actual impact on Diamond Lake School. So right now, Diamond Lake School has many easements along the route. We are talking to those people. Diamond Lake School, specifically, we're working with staff. We're currently working with staff. Melody's met with them numerous times since the fall. We've reached out to tell staff we're happy to come in and talk to board meetings. We're happy to talk to whoever they would like to talk to discuss how we do work around the school. And what I can say about how the school is that, I'll give you an example, Woodland Intermediate School in Gages Lake, our pipeline blocked the entrances to it. This is a school with, I think, over 1,000 people. They, too, use the school year-round. So we're going to take actions to minimize interruption, but we work with the staff to do that. So the staff needs to tell us the things that you brought up, that kids are going in there all the time. We have children. We don't want kids hurt. We don't want anyone hurt. So we're going to work with staff to do what they allow us to do. By the way, that also has to be in coordination with LCDOT. Whether we go down Eagle Drive or Diamond Lake or anywhere in the county, we're interrupting schools, fire departments. We do that wherever we go. It's just the nature of the beast. So we develop traffic plans with the local road authority and with whoever we're impacting. So those plans are not done ahead of time, those are done after. And so we will work with them to make sure that we meet their expectations. And we can post, if you had mentioned that, don't tell me that you're working it out with the school, we have a right to know our children there. Don't disagree with that. So I think what we could do is post that information, like what we determine and the traffic plans on our website would probably be the easiest way for you to be able to see what those are. You asked about traffic studies. So we do traffic studies for everywhere we go. So we'll have to provide a traffic study for the township. That's something they would require to use our road. For LCDOT, we have to do it for IDOT. Everywhere we go, Lake Zurich, we have to do traffic studies showing where the signs are going to be placed, where the flaggers are going to stand. That whole bit, that'll all be spelled out in later engineering. You asked about, did we talk to Stevenson High School and that? No, we have not done that yet. No matter where we go, we're going to interrupt the high school. We're going to have some impact on students. No matter where we've gone, we've done that. Carmel High School, same thing. Putting in the pipeline there. That's something we will work with them. And that's once we get the route designed. We can't do all this stuff ahead of time. We'd be spending a lot of money possibly going places where we would never end up. So we first like to know where exactly we're going to be, and then we can get into those details. A question about the fire hydrant. Chief, I would ask you to comment on that.
Good evening, everybody. Chuck Smith, Fire Chief, Countryside Fire Protection District. You guys are very good about putting things on your website, as I saw my support letter and that ended up there. Anyway, just a little bit about me. I'm very passionate about water. Also, I don't have a license plate like H2O, but it is very important to our business. And when I found out about this project about a year ago, I immediately reached out to the county board, to JAWA, had a great meeting to learn about the pipeline. Most importantly, so that I can get fire hydrants somewhere in that stretch of Indian Creek Road and your subdivision. That is one of the most vulnerable areas of our fire district, 24 square miles. Our ISO rating, which is the Insurance Service Organization, is based 50% on the firefighting capability, and the rest of it's on the water supply. And I can't control the water supply, but every time I get a chance to get water somewhere, we take it. The Indian Trail subdivision in particular, there's 2 ponds that we use as our primary water sources. Well, actually, it's only 1 pond now. The 1 mile loop around the Arrowhead Tahoe side, we had a dry hydrant in there that failed over and over and over again. The struggle with that is in rural water static situations like your neighborhood's in, there's a lot of different factors for getting water out of a pond to use for firefighting purposes. The fire engines can pretty much draft a static water source about 30 feet. That's 30 feet horizontally and vertically. And most of the setbacks for that pond on the north side of your subdivision are 300 feet. We were able to get some water out of there, but oftentimes that failed with silt, damage to the pipe, and eventually that was abandoned. So the only water source in your subdivision is on the south side. Arrowhead and Eagle there's a dry hydrant. On its best days, it gets about 1,000 gallons of water out of it until a catfish or something gets stuck on the end, which then obviously restricts the water flow. So when I initially heard this pipeline was coming in, we were very excited to get water. When I heard it was going to potentially go through Indian Trails, I even actually became more excited that it was going to go into your neighborhood, because to get positive pressure water in your neighborhood will provide much better firefighting access for us. You do have a fire hydrant on the other side of Diamond Lake Road by Diamond Lake School. That's the end of the line for Mundelein. End of the line water hydrants are not as much water flow, and we can't tap that hydrant for firefighting for your neighborhood until all of our resources from the north get across that intersection into the subdivision, because then we effectively close the road down with our hose. So it's a late option for us to use that one. I did watch your February 11th board meeting. I didn't even think about half the concerns you guys had, and I really don't have any way to address them. That's what all these fine people are here for. But I can assure you that when, especially these high-value homes, your insurance companies are out there calling, finding out where hydrants are, how far they are away from the fire department. It has the potential to reduce insurance for y'all. From the firefighting side of things, I think this would be a real benefit for your subdivision.
Chief, well, thank you for your service. Thank you for what you do for us. The number of hydrants in the subdivision, do we know what that number is going to be? And then you guys will be, if we do have hydrants installed, you will be hydrant testing them every year?
With our unique hydrants, we actually have to learn about how to use them, considering they're blow-off hydrants and on a different kind of a water main. They might be able to better explain that part for us, but we wouldn't necessarily be testing them on a regular basis. That would be the responsibility of the water purveyor, but we would definitely be trained and learn how to use them appropriately. Ideally, 1 to 3 fire hydrants in there along Eagle would be great. Our firefighting capability is about 2,000 feet we can pump using one of our pumpers. And I don't know if you saw I was out driving around your subdivision the past couple of days, admiring some of the culverts and all this stuff. You guys have some great stuff you guys have done, so I understand your guys' concern. But the loop around your side from Arrowhead to Tahoe is about a mile all the way around. We can pump from that intersection there, from one of these hydrants, all the way to the far end of that loop if we have positive water. If we're using suction and static, we probably will not get water flow to do that, and then we have to do relay pumping. And as I said in my letter that's on the website, in my support letter, we're very good at drafting. We do it all the time. We have other rural areas in our subdivision or in our jurisdiction that we have to be good at doing this. It just takes time. And our biggest 2 factors for any house fire is time and water. Those are our 2 things. If we can get water to the fire quickly, we usually can save houses. If we can't, it takes a long time for us to get there, which is why we have certain response models. Indian Trails in your subdivision, it's countryside fire, but you often see Mundelein units in there because that station on Lake Street, we have an agreement with because of the railroad that they're going to get there quicker. And that's because of time. So for those purposes, we'll be able to get your entire subdivision over 1 to 3 hydrants in there without a problem.
Yeah, getting the hydrants in there is probably our one and only biggest benefit. If you're saying 1 to 3, I think all of us would prefer the 3 number. If you can push for that, that would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm not an engineer, so I don't know how all that part works. But 1 at each intersection through there would be incredible. 1 at Eagle, Tahoe, Eagle, Arrowhead, and then the other Eagle, Arrowhead.
Correct.
Yes, sir.
The literature says that for you to access that fire hydrant, you have to dig and use a special key to unlock something. Let's assume we're in January, the snow plow has gone past, and we've got 3 feet of snow above that. How are you going to get to it?
Can you explain the buffalo box portion of that?
Sure, yes. So our blow-offs are usually meant for draining our main, so they're not technically built for firefighting. So to keep them from being used for filling purposes or purposes other than firefighting or our own, we do have a special locking valve box. So the fire department, 3 other fire departments that we serve have special keys that do access those so that they can get to that. Your question about snow is completely appropriate.
It's a surface level box, right?
It's a surface level box.
And we do run into snow issues all the time. Just regular hydrants can get buried by snow. We drive around and make efforts to clear emergency access to hydrants on a regular basis. We come back from calls, our engines go through neighborhoods, clear fire hydrants. Obviously, we can't get them all, but we make sure that we keep fire hydrants accessible best we can. Okay. Does that answer your question, sir?
We have no curbs. The fire hydrants and those other pipe things that I have other questions about, but we'll get that later. It's not unheard of for a snowplow to relocate our mailbox because we're all on at the edge there. What if one of those pipes is hit, or one of the fire hydrants is hit. How do you deal with that?
So from our perspective, it happens quite often out there. Fire hydrants get knocked off. We have two that went out of service today. We're finding broken nuts on the bottom that hold them on. Good news is in this area, it's not like the movies where they get hit, water just starts blowing off. They're shut off underground because of the freeze. So we report them and they get repaired. And if we had one, if we had two even, more than one in there, let's put it that way, then at least we have another option in case one of them were to fail, which does happen.
What are those pipe things?
Those are vents. So our pipeline, because we don't have service connections every house or so, there could be air trapped in there. So there could be one of these on Eagle Drive. And so at the high point of the main, we put one of these on there so air can escape, so we have full water going through the pipe and it doesn't get blocked by air. So that pipe, it's just to let air in and out of the main.
It doesn't have any odor, or it's real cold, it doesn't have steam coming out? Or?
Nope. I will say, once in a while, if the valve has something in it, it can leak a little water. We get a call, we go out there, we open and close it again, and it shuts.
Okay, any other questions? We have a lot of people to get through.
I don't want to steal the show.
Okay, no, I appreciate you being here. Thank you.
One quick one. You educated me. I'm on the northwest side on Arrowhead Drive. So basically, I'll tell my insurance, but I don't have any car insurance.
On the north side, we have to use a tanker shuttle. So what we'd have to do is set up a big swimming pool in the middle of the road and dump water and have tankers go find water somewhere and fill. And on the south side, we can try to tap that dry hydrant, and if that dry hydrant provides water, then we can use pond water to put your house fire out, which is better than no water. But otherwise, we have to shuttle water in.
Any other questions?
Yeah, just really quick. Bill, can you clarify the comment of the blow-off station is not meant for firefighting?
Correct. They're not specifically designed for firefights. They're designed to be put in the low spot of our main, so that when we have a repair, what we can do is we can close our valves on either side of that, and then we can basically pump the water out of the main. That's what they're technically designed as. But we do have agreements, like I said, with, I believe, one fire department and two other fire districts, where they have access to these to use for firefighting purposes.
Those are Round Lake,
Greater Round Lake Fire District.
Okay, as long as we know what's been done, we just got to keep this going.
I understand.
Okay, thank you.
Right.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your service. Thank you for answering.
Thanks for letting me be here. Appreciate it.
Okay, so we have number 3, Gordon McCrew.
Hey, I'm Gordon McCrew on Tahoe Court. My well's quite a ways from the proposed construction. And you say you're not concerned about our wells. Well, I'm concerned about my well, and it has nothing to do with anything you guys would be doing. I'm concerned about it becoming contaminated. I'm concerned about the aquifer running out. I'm concerned about my well infrastructure just simply failing and costing me a lot of money to replace it with something that I still don't, it still has the questions of draining aquifers and contamination. So I never heard of your group until this all came up, and I guess I'm a great fan. The only question is, when do we get some of that great CLC Java water in our neighborhood? It seems like we've got a pipe that's going to be running right through it, and I'm not naive as to, Lake Zurich paying for it, so they don't want to pay for your water, yada, yada, yada. But my question is, it seems like this is all a very piecemeal approach. Lake Zurich comes up with some money, and the pipe runs right through our neighborhood, and we don't get any water out of it. When it comes time, when do we get the water? And when that happens, well, they say, geez, there's that pipe running through that. It makes it really hard to run another pipe in there. And It's going to be expensive because we got to run another big pipe in there, and you know, is this going to be feasible? Is there any circumstance under which we would be able to tap into this pipe for more than just firefighting purposes, which is very important, and I'm glad to hear that it's there, and I hope that this system, which seems, you know, maybe a little bit questionable in terms of whether I would question how often has it been used in areas like this, how often is it used, can it be used well for firefighting, but I'd like to get some water in my house, and I guess that's primarily, certainly I understand Lake Zurich is funding this and they're paying with their tax dollars. We pay a lot of taxes, at least I think it's a lot, and I wonder who's representing us to get water into our faucets from Lake Michigan water so that we don't have the question of having to pay for these expensive wells that are pumping what might be questionable water. The only way it gets tested is if we get tested. So I'd love to get some water, and I just hate to see it running right through our neighborhood, and I'm saying, sorry, you can't have any of this. What's the plan? When do we get water?
Thank you.
So how it would work is the most likely scenario is you would become incorporated in the village of Mundelein, who has our water. Mundelein is a member of ours. You would then have to pay for a distribution system within your community, and then Mundelein would provide you that water. They have the allocation from the Illinois Department of Natural Resources, so you have to have an allocation to do that. I called Mundelein officials. I asked, because I heard, well, we listened at the last meeting. Some people were saying that you're going to be forced to join the pipeline. Some people asked us, and subsequently, do some members, some people in Indian Creek already get Lake Michigan water? So I called Mundelein. Answer number one, no one in Indian Creek gets Lake Michigan water, at least from Mundelein. The only pipeline is, as the chief described, is to the hydrant by Diamond Lake School. So I asked, do you have any plans to incorporate Indian Creek subdivision or otherwise annex them into the community? They said, no, we have no such plans to do so. So to answer your question most directly and most candidly is currently there is not an opportunity for you to get Lake Michigan water.
Thank you.
Could I maybe just follow up with a question, maybe a comment on this? Obviously, you guys are saving a lot of money by running this through our neighborhood, and Lake Zurich obviously doesn't care about us, but maybe we could work a deal. If we had at some point in the future right to tap into this main, I would be much more predisposed to having it run through our neighborhood. Is there any possibility that we could reach an agreement with Lake Zurich that we would be permitted to do that at some future time when we're ready to pay for the water to be tapped in? Because obviously that would save a lot of money and make it a lot more feasible to put a water system into our neighborhood if the water was already right there in our neighborhood.
Yeah, so what actually the township has requested already is what's called a connection T. And this would be in the pipeline, we put a T with a blind flange for someday in the future that I will be very candid is beyond my working life, which is coming to 8 years away or so anyways. But it would be sometime in the distant future that maybe we can't imagine, but it would be there as a potential future connection point.
Why do you say it's so far in the future? Why is it beyond question that this could happen, say, in the next 5 to 10 years?
Because you don't have an allocation for Lake Michigan water. You have no distribution system in the community. The connection fee to join the agency currently is $3,300 per household. You would have to annex into Mundelein or Lake Zurich, which I don't know how that would work.
In other words, basically because we're not in a municipality, we can't legally access it, even though, and it has nothing to do with that. So you cannot provide, even though you're a Lake County service, you can't provide water to residents of Lake County who are not in a municipality. Is that what I'm understanding?
Not quite. So we are not a Lake County service. We're Central Lake County Joint Action Water Agency. We have the name Lake County in our name.
Oh, well, okay.
We have, the county has a representative on our board, but we are not a Lake County service. We only provide people water who come get an allocation, apply to our board. Our board decides whether we have the capacity to serve that community. So that's basically.
Thank you. We have to move on. We're on number 4. Yes, number 4. I'm not sure, Chief Smith, if you'd like to say anything else.
We're good.
Number 5, Pete and Ann Pinto.
I will try to make this brief. My name is Peter Nespino. I've lived on Eagle Drive for 34 years. Paid, I guess, 3 decades of taxes. And I read the 14-page document. And after I read it, I thought to myself, this really sounds like a done deal. And so I was discouraged. But the one thing, and this is just a question to the board, do you represent the people on Eagle Drive and in the Indian Trail subdivision? Or do you represent the engineers and Jowett? Now, this is a political issue, of course, because we've elected you. And you serve our interests. Okay? And, I mean, you can see the people here tonight. Can I just ask a question? How many people here tonight live on Eagle Drive? Can you please stand up and just stand up for a minute? Okay, how many people live in the Indian Trail subdivision? Can you stand? I hope I didn't miss anybody. Does Indian Meadows, is that part of our group here? Anybody from Indian Meadows? Please stand. I didn't want to forget anybody. Okay, now, do you see the people here tonight? Okay, and how we feel? You can sit down. Thank you. You know, I can't help but think how angry people are. You're using our street, our road, Eagle Drive, as a shortcut for this pipeline that the people on Eagle Drive, we have no benefit whatsoever. Okay? And it's really discouraging. And I think you can understand how we feel. Now, originally this was supposed to go down Diamond Lake Road. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so it has been changed to Eagle Drive. Now, you're using Eagle Drive as a shortcut to save money. Okay, because this is the cheapest road that you can use. Now, it's difficult to put this together. You have a $154 million project going. Okay, how much savings is your company going to have by going down Eagle Drive? Okay, is it going to be like $500,000, $1 million, $2 million, $3 million? That's 2% of a $158 million project. So, I mean, my question is, you guys are the experts, and you guys could go down Diamond Lake Road. You're the engineers. You guys are so well trained, and you have the technology to be able to use Diamond Lake Road. Okay? And so we have, look at these people here tonight. We have 100 houses in our subdivision. Okay? And people who have lived there for a long time. And you're doing something that is going to disturb the quality of life. Okay? Because there are people in here who are older, like myself. Okay, I'm 74 years old and lived there for 34 years. And I'm going to ask Ms. Lindberger.
I'm sorry.
Okay, I just want to ask you to put this as part of the record, okay? The Illinois Fairness Act says that you have to give us a cost analysis of how much money is going or how much, what is the difference in money by using either Diamond Lake Road or Eagle Drive, and how much money are you saving? So what is the cost analysis? Because we have the right to have an item analysis of what the cost is going to be. And that's part of the law. So I would request that we get an itemized paper with documentation of what this is going to cost. And thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I just have a question because I'm still trying to figure this out. And I want to thank you for your time, for the 14-page document. I wish it had received it earlier, but better late than never. But I'm still confused about, we can talk about wells and the quality of water, and some of us really want to stay on our wells. And I think Pete did research and heard that 1/3 of Americans are on wells. Is that right, Pete? So, I mean, there's a lot of benefits to being on a well. But also, back to the gentleman, look at Gordon, who talked about if we want to be part of this, because supposedly it might increase our property value for us and for future generations. I think it will improve the quality of life for Lake Zurich, and we're sensitive to our sister cities. But I'm still feeling like the reason I just want to make sure I understand. You have the ability and the technology and the engineering that you could get the water to us, to our homes, if we wanted. But it's political because we're in no man's land. We're not part of Mundelein. Ella Township represents us. Ela, sorry. And so I just want to make sure I'm getting this clear. It sounds more political than, and what can you do to help us with that? And that isn't just about money. Do you understand what I'm saying? So do I understand correctly that you could do it, but you can't because we don't have anybody representing us?
So when the Illinois Intergovernmental Cooperative Act was formed, it allowed communities to join together to pool their funds to do something better together than they could do individually. So Paul Neal, the former mayor of Libertyville, saw his town growing in the late 80s and saw his aquifer load dropping, and they had water quality issues. So he announced in 1982, he invited everyone in Lake County to join him to look at getting water from Lake Michigan. At that first meeting, there was many people from all over the county. Fast forward to 1992, only 9 remained. The other one said it's a boondoggle, it's a waste of taxpayer money, it's a Taj Mahal you're building, it's ridiculous. The 9 that remained built the water plant for themselves to provide themselves water. So everyone was invited to join, 9 remained. I started there in 95, water use was going up and up and up. People would come and ask, Lake Zurich came and asked, can we get on board? My board told them no, we don't have enough water. 2008, water demand flattens. Since 2008, people are using less and less water. Because of that, my board said, you know what, we have this plant that can make a lot of water. Their number one priority is to keep water rates down for the residents. It makes sense. That's what every mayor should want. And they said, how about we possibly provide water to other people? So that's when we added Lindenhurst, Lake Villa, Lake County Systems of Fox Lake Hills, Brandwood Park. That's when we added Wakanda. That's when we added Bowl. And when Lake Zurich came along, they got an allocation. They said, could we get up onto your system? And we said, yes, we have the capacity. So their board passed it. Our board passed it. That's the process we're on now. So the reason that you don't have access to Lake Michigan water is because you're not in one of the original communities and you're not served by Lake County, who is one of our members. Now, there are 3 public water systems in Gila Township that the trustees here do represent, just like they represent all the residents of Lake Zurich, who are also in the township, that are going to benefit from our water. They're going to connect to this pipeline, and they're going to get water. Hawthorne Woods, the village of Hawthorne Woods. Also, it's going to get some amount of water because we've worked it out that way. So we now, if you wanted to get water, you would have to be annexed into a member community. You would have to build a system, which this is not a small amount of money, and that's how you would get water. That's just the practical fact. We can't run a pipeline to you because the same reason we can't to anyone else whose houses we pass. We send out 14 water bills a month. The water bill to Gurney is like $500,000 a month. We can't deal with individual homeowners. We work through a wholesale water system in Illinois, and so we deal with whole communities like Lake Zurich, Gurney, Libertyville, and more. So that's why we can't do it. We're just not set up to do that.
Thank you. Next on the list is Pete L.
So good evening, Pete Alley. I'm a resident of Eagle Drive. I live next door to the other Pete here. A couple of observations. When I looked at the presentation that showed the routing, I noted that Eagle Drive is the only place where the routing veers into a residential neighborhood that's of our character and characteristic. And you explained the rationale why, and it's also in the FAQs, and I've taken some excerpts from the FAQs. Less disturbance and impact on property owners. That's just not true for us. Elsewhere in the document it says 3 to 7 months is how long the duration of the disturbance to our neighborhood will be. That's significant. That's not a short period of time. Second excerpt allows for expedited construction. Again, convenient to expedite, but does it make the right thing to do? I don't think so. Third excerpt eliminates need for easements and associated costs and delays. Again, convenient and expedient and solves the cost problem, but to the detriment and on the backs of the people who live in our neighborhood. Not right. Elsewhere in that document it mentions costs. Again, in our view, this is not about costs as much as it is about doing the right thing for our community. This is a very large pipeline, 2 feet diameter. The trench is going to be, I think you said 6 feet wide, something like that, 8 to 10 feet deep. That's a lot of dirt to be moved. And it's close to existing wells and septic fields. Some of us in our neighborhood, in fact, have experienced disturbances to our wells when foundations are put in for homes. So it's not an unheard of thing for wells to have silting problems and dirt in the water. And we also have underground electrical and gas and cable and telephone on both sides of the street. And there's been no assurance that we've heard that there will be any provision made for not interrupting that service. We rely on our wells. We rely on our septic fields, septic systems. And when asked about that, in the FAQs, there was a lengthy run-on sentence reply that started off with, groundwater systems are influenced by many factors beyond CLC Jawa's control. And then I'm going to skip the rest of the end because it says CLC Jawa will work with the property owner to address the issue in accordance with applicable law. Excuse me for saying so. That sounds like a response written by a lawyer. What we would like to hear as residents is, if there's a problem, we'll take care of it. That would be the right thing to do and the right response for us. We depend on our wells and septic systems. We don't have any other options. Any disruption has an immediate impact on our lives. Some additional questions that I came up with. Who's liable for the damage? Is it Lake Zurich, the village, or CLC Jawa? I'm learning how to say that pretty quickly. What's the warranty period? Many of us have seen projects around Lake County where there's settlement issues well after the contractors have gone home and are comfortably ensconced in their offices. Who takes care of settlement once there's settlement in the neighborhood 2 to 3 years later? Who's going to come back and address that? We've already had drainage issues with our wells, with our ditches, and I expect that will probably happen again. So in summary, Eagle Drive is the only residential street. It seems like it's a convenient option. Lake County has said no to digging underneath the Diamond Lake Road. Perhaps we could ask permission to see if we could have them override that. We frankly are not satisfied with the answers to the well question in particular, and we see that this option places cost and convenience above the concerns of our residents. For these reasons, I urge you to vote no on this particular line. Thank you.
Chairman Richard Jensen.
Good evening. Tim Jensen, with on Eagle Drive. Couple of questions real quick. So you mentioned, or you kind of answered why this route. You haven't gone into any details on why not any of the alternate routes that you came up with. Granted, Diamond Lake was the preferred, but why not number 2? Why not number 3? Why go with 1A or whatever? How did that come up? Was it financially motivated or convenience, as was mentioned? And then some of the vagueness in this document, as far as the noise levels, waste pickup, deliveries, it says that is still going to happen. But what does that exactly mean? Am I going to still walk my cans down to my driveway? Or am I going to have to walk them 2 doors down? There's no details. So, some of this is kind of half-assed. Sorry to say that. And then lastly, Bill, on your website, I believe you guys had a meeting at the end of January, where there's a document dated January 28th, 2026, talking about this project. There's no mention of Eagle Drive. But yet, a week later, we have a meeting here to contest it. There's no transparency. Once again, it goes back to this convenience driving this decision. So, that's all I have, but I would like to understand why not the alternate routes. So the question with regards to why don't we use the alternate routes? So we did a route study a year or 2 ago, and we looked at all kinds of factors, which you can pull up on the screen here. We reviewed those with the Lake Zurich board and with our board, and our boards agreed for what we call the preferred route. That was the route down Diamond Lake. To address the question, we said, this is the only place we're going to residential. So where we do route studies, we always look at main roads first. We would rather be on the main roads. In this case, you're correct. We're going down, we're asking to use a residential township road, Eagle Drive. I want you to also know that in Lake Zurich, we are getting off of Midlothian, and we're cutting through the Wicklow subdivision.
Well,
We're going to be right
fine.
down.
They're getting the
So
water.
we're going through residential neighborhoods there as well. So as we refine the route, based on information and data we get, we refine the route. So this would be a refinement of the original preferred route. So when we did the original study, we looked at horsepower pumping requirements, the number of
Could you enlarge that? We can't see that at all.
the number of permits needed, the number of easements, stream crossings, wetland crossings, waterway impacts, average traffic counts per day, business impact, non-wetland, trenchless location, future roadway project, and congested utility corridors. So these are the routes that we looked at, and the preferred route, the one down Diamond Lake, was the one that was selected. So the question has been, that we've heard before and we're hearing again this evening, is why did you change? Why aren't you going down Diamond Lake Road? That's basically the question that we're getting. And we tried to address that this evening.
Why not 83 to 22? Why not 60 all the way to Midlothian? Why not? There's
Exactly.
plenty of alternatives that you are not looking at.
We're the only people who can't say no, is what it amounts to.
Because these people don't represent us.
True.
Why does the water have to start in Vernon Hills? Can't it come out of Mundelein or something?
Or Wakanda that's already right next to Lake Zurich?
They're all set up.
We've looked at all those routes, and those routes aren't possible because of pipe diameter and the hydraulic losses we get at the pipe at the end to be able to serve Lake Zurich.
And what about 2012?
So there were other roads that were looked at.
We looked at numerous other routes, yes.
But they all had better representation who were not willing to rubber stamp this project for you.
And they're not documented. We don't know if they looked at 1 or 5.
They're all right here. They're published on our website. They've been there for 2 years.
From Vernon Hill, from Mundelein or Wakanda?
Those didn't even make the cut because the pipe's not big enough to do it. So we don't engineer something we couldn't do.
Or that's your response.
That's my response.
Could you show the screen that shows the cost comparison? It's also part of your study.
No. There's no cost comparison. At this stage, route study, we don't necessarily look at that. We look at pipeline, traffic interruption, these specific factors.
There is no chance you don't look at that.
But the FAQ says
We do
cost.
after that. We do after that. So the FAQ, what we're referring to there specifically is if we go down Diamond Lake, we have to acquire private property easements. If we go on Eagle Drive, we use public right-of-way.
Well, what's the cost?
The cost difference is that we're having to buy easements and run the risk of having difficulty getting the easements to going down a public right-of-way.
Dollars and cents. What's the cost?
It's cheaper to go down Eagle Drive.
Dollars and cents, which is...
If I told you it was $1 difference, it's still cheaper and faster.
Well, what is it?
I don't have that. We don't do that like the engineering to that detail.
Then you can't say that.
I can tell you it's cheaper. I couldn't tell you if it's $1.
They don't have an amount because they'd have to be purchasing land. So there isn't a dollar amount. I don't believe that.
We haven't negotiated these.
Wow, if there's no dollar amount, how do you know it's not?
I don't work for them.
It's nice how you can answer for them.
I'm just trying to clarify the residents of what I've learned.
Thanks for
I think what
supporting
we're
me.
asking for is we're asking for a cost analysis.
Sure, I heard you.
Eventually, we need a cost
And
analysis.
when would the cost analysis be available?
The difference between the two roads, price-wise, in terms of money.
You know, to do a real cost analysis requires engineering and spending a lot of money just on the engineering. We're responsible. We have a responsibility to those we serve to provide them to be good stewards of public funds, to pre-design specific routes ahead of time and do all the engineering and investigation and all of that ahead of time. First of all, organizations don't do that, government or private. You first pick your route, and then you do the design. That's kind of why we're in the place we are now. We picked our route, and as situation changes, as we gather data and information, we adjust the route as needed. So in this case, we still plan on going down Indian Creek and all that stuff, but going down Diamond Lake Road, we get this hitch where we now have to acquire easements on private property. I don't know how much it's going to cost to do that.
Well, who cares?
That's not our problem, but I know it's not your problem.
You're making it our problem.
Can I ask you a question? Is there 35-foot standard in front of my house, and the same thing against Diamond Lake Road? They have 35 feet. That's government land. You don't have to require it or buy it or do whatever you're trying to say. That's what I don't understand.
Because
at the fire neighborhood, you can just run over it. But you're scared you're going to have to deal with somebody if you go down Diamond Lake?
No, on Eagle Drive, we're in a public right-of-way. We're not going to need any easements on your right-of-way. But we can't fit into that public right-of-way. So we have to acquire land in order for us to fit there. From private property.
We're at number 7. We have to get to number 8. Number 8 is Brian Carlson. If you come up here with your question, please.
I want to be a great neighbor of Lake Zurich, but it's a two-way street. Lake Zurich needs to be a great neighbor for us. I was hoping that we'd have more Lake Zurich representatives here to hear that this is going to be a terrible inconvenience for us. If that was the case, they'd go back to the board or be board members and say, hey, you know what, this project, we're going to have to bump it up to however much it is and run it down Diamond Lake to make the quality of life better for the residents of Indian Trails. You guys said that it's easier to run the pipe on a straight run. Diamond Lake is a straight run. Eagle is not a straight run. Also, question 2, I want to go on record. If somehow this is shoehorned into our subdivision, I want the maximum amount of hydrants. I also want, prior to it, that now there's some question about whether or not the hydrants can possibly use for firefighting purposes. Chief, is that something you could drill down into to make sure?
They are able to be used for firefighting. They're just different than what you would see on a regular, like in Vernon Hills. The hydrants there are different than these hydrants.
Are they? You have the appropriate equipment, hookup stuff to be able to tap into that?
We would be able to hook up to them just fine. We just need the key to unlock.
Who's got the key?
No.
Yeah. And then, do we have a possible start date? Like if this was a go for whatever reason through our subdivision, when would you physically be breaking ground? Do we have that date set roughly?
Sometime in 2027.
2027. So there's a lot of time for this to be ironed out. I thought that we would be able to tap into this water at some point in time. Obviously, it sounds like that's a no-go. And none of us want to be annexed into Mundelein because then, no offense, we'd have to be in Mundelein School District. And no one wants that. Last year, our roadway we had a grind and overlay done. Is there any specs on the asphalt or roadway surface you're going to be putting in? Is it going to be better than what we currently have now, since you're going to be digging down 8 feet? You're going to have some specs on what you're going to be putting down there?
We would go full roadway restoration, so that thickness, usually in 2 courses for overtop the trench, and then another mill and overlay for everything outside.
And one of my other concerns was that Lake County Sheriff doesn't come on our subdivision that much as it is, but now if one entrance was blocked and they can only enter it one way, I know how cops are because I was for 30 years, I'd be like, if that subdivision is a pain in the neck to get into, and that's when you can drive into it. Would there be some kind of communication with them to ensure that they would be doing, patrols, even though their squads will be getting dirty and the roadways going to be torn up and everything else?
We do have that pre-construction meeting with emergency officials before construction starts, just to go over where we're going to be, when we're going to be there.
Okay. That's all I have. I just think, unfortunately, Lake Zurich's going to have to foot the bill, the extra money to run it down Diamond Lake. I mean, if I was with Lake Zurich, if I was a resident of Lake Zurich and I heard all these complaints, all these concerns, I'd be like, hey, you know what? In the grand scheme of things, this is a one-time fee. You're going to, incur some additional cost by running it through our subdivision, but again, it's a one-time fee, and you're going to be using this water for, centuries. So really, I think that makes no sense to run it through our subdivision.
Hello, my name is Ralph Foster. I'm with the Montgomery Park District. Just a few quick questions. In the pictures, it looks like you guys are running right down the road, either one side or the other, doing the excavation. Would that be the case here, or would you pick one side, like in the ditch area, and try to stay off the road? And have you picked one side or the other?
We haven't decided yet. We have to run some additional analyses, soil borings, utility surveys, just to confirm what's out there. We generally would want to stay on the edge grant of the road, so not necessarily in the center. That answers the question.
Would it be on the roadway? Because I'm selfishly thinking about our parks and whether we're going to be disturbed and do restoration work and that kind of thing.
So within the right of way.
How far is the right of way from the center to?
I think 33 feet from center.
Okay.
So, yeah, it extends beyond the pavement edge. But anything excavated, whether in the road or in that parkway, would be restored by the project.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Number 10 is Barb Dolan.
Hello, my name is Barb Dolan. I've lived in Benning for 38 years. I just have to say, I do not feel everybody at all, by any means. And to be able to find out a meeting was held, I wasn't even included because I don't live on Eagle, I'm only in on the Arrowhead. I'm just really disappointed in each one of you. Thank you for representing us.
Jeff Kennedy? Okay. John? Shirley?
My question's already answered.
Okay, wonderful. Number 13 is Anna Sharp.
I'm going to take her my line.
Okay, sure.
Hello, my name is Bill Schreck. Live on Eagle Drive. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for taking time out of your day and coming up here. But a couple things I did have curiosity. Is it coming down the middle of the road? So you're going to actually be pulling up asphalt and trenching, or is it going to be going down through our culverts? And then are the culverts going to be restored? And what if they're not draining properly? I'm assuming that somebody's going to be able to come out and fix that. And what are our assurances with that? The other piece of this is we talked a lot about our wells. And our wells, all of them are working now. I don't think anybody's without water right now, I'm guessing. You said that, we don't know the condition of the wells. I can tell you they're all operating now, okay? So then the burden of proof becomes on, well, whose fault is it? And, it becomes this big thing. Are the contractors bonded to fix our wells when they go bad in the next 3 to 5 years? Whether it's silt or dirty water or those types of things. So the other thing is coming down the road. If you're coming down the middle of the road or you're blocking driveways, and I and my wife both work out of the house. Luckily, we're very mobile, but, I got to believe that some of my neighbors are not as mobile. So if you're digging up my driveway and I'm home for the day and I need to get out at a doctor appointment or whatever, where am I parking my car? Where am I putting my car? That's one of the other problems. So that I think about as I go through it. But the wells are all working, so that's all good. But I want to share something that I just real quickly Googled. So I'm not an expert on this, but I just want to share this, and this is through ChatGPT about hydrants, okay, about blow-off hydrants specifically. Insufficient flow rate. This is one of the problems with it. Blow-off hydrants typically use 2-inch or 2.5-inch connections, which often cannot deliver the maximum or the minimum flow rates
usually 500 gallons per minute or more, required by fire codes for effective firefighting. Okay? So I don't know if that's true or not, but if that's a small amount, we talked to this gentleman here, who I think is probably the furthest from where all the fire hydrants are going to be. Is that going to be enough? That's one of the things here. Is that going to be enough to fight fire? Because that's counted as one of the benefits for us. And yeah, if it's not, it's not. So we need to be sure that the blow-off hydrants are right. I think, Brian, you had it right in hitting on that. Pump damage risk. You even stated, it's Bill, right? Stated, is it?
Sorry, Green.
Oh, okay. All right. So you even stated that at a low part. And one of the things here in ChatGPT, pump damage risk, because they are primarily used to flush sediment and silt, that when you hook to it, you could suck up all the silt in the firefighting equipment, and that could be problematic. So, and then there's legal and safety restrictions. Many jurisdictions strictly prohibit the use of non-firefighting hydrants for emergency response unless absolutely necessary. Okay? So, now, it might be absolutely necessary, but if this is touted as a benefit for us, and my insurance company already said, there's no way to cutting my rates. No ifs, ands, or buts about that. Okay? They read that, and they're like, nope, not going to do it. So thank you, but no thank you. That's the big thing. And then I'll just address the board here. Okay, you folks work for us. We heard about traffic control and how much traffic is going to be interrupted. And last time I was here, I talked about it. A lot of people coming up and down Diamond Lake Road. I get it. That's a big traffic area, but they have other choices that they can use. They can use Midlothian. They can use 83. They can choose to do that. They don't have to come up that way. All of us in this room, 100 homes, guaranteed 200 people minimum, are going to be impacted every single day coming in and out of our subdivision, right? And everybody coming up to Diamond Lake Road is not part of Gila Township. We are. And when you look at it, if it's a cost factor, the tax base that we've got sitting in this room is pretty big, pretty substantial, as far as what our taxes pay in Gila Township. So I ask you to go back with this, mainly because you're representing us, and almost everybody down Diamond Lake Road, at least living down Diamond Lake Road, with the exception of people that are backing up to it, are not Gila Township. So I want you to be good stewards of, our vote and do what is necessary for protecting our neighborhood for what may be just a few dollars cheaper for the Lake Zurich residents. So, thank you very much.
Questions, or should we move on?
So our blow-off hydrants there are some 2-inch blow-off hydrants. Ours are identical to a fire hydrant. They basically come off the bottom of the main. You are absolutely correct. There is sediment that could, through, collect in the bottom of the main. I can guarantee no catfish though. Mm-hmm. So it sounds like our hydrants would be better than the dry hydrants that you have now. That's what I can say about that.
Next is number 14, Donna Johnson.
My questions have been answered. I hope you both know.
Thank you. Number 15, Aaron Cook, Aaron Miller. Then we have Tom Jeffrey Klein.
My name is Tom Klein, and I live on Arrowhead Drive. And first of all, I want to thank my neighbors here because I think they addressed the majority of the questions that I had, and they did a good job doing that. But I did want to bring up the fact that in our neighborhood it's changing. We are taking in more younger families, and with that we have more children in the neighborhood. So the real concern here, and I talked to them, and the questions they have is safety as to how everything is going to work to ensure that no one is injured during this process. And just simple questions like, At the end of every workday, are we going to be sure that there's no open trenches where the children could play and potentially hurt themselves? And then the other question that I think everybody really would like to know too is, from start to finish, when you start on Eagle Head Drive and you finish at the end of Eagle Head Drive, how long is that going to take? How long is it going to be each week? And I know you talked about you could do 100 feet a day or 200 feet a day. To me, it sounds like you could have it wrapped up in about a week. Is that true?
That being 200 feet a day, over half a mile, is 26 working days.
And then it rains.
Yeah.
But of course, you have. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I wrote in the FAQ very thoughtfully that up to a year, because you're asking the question the way that I like it asked. From the time it starts to the time I don't see you people in my neighborhood. I'm telling you up to a year. But it's also very important to break that down. With construction equipment in the neighborhood and driving around, it's months. With someone blocking your driveway, it's a day. But until we get everything restored, the grass is growing, and things like that, I'm telling you up to a year. In terms of keeping trenches closed, yes, the trenches will be kept closed so kids and other people don't fall into it. There might be a couple of vaults that we put in, manholes. Those will be also caps so children, animals, people walking at night don't fall into them.
And you say a year, but just from the time that you're actually more concerned about how quickly can they get in and out of the subdivision, and we don't care about putting grass seed in and all that other stuff.
It's on a month scale.
Months?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, we've gone through the list. Is there anyone else that would like to ask a question? If you'd like to go to the podium.
Hi again, I'm late. I'm prepared to read your stuff. My name is Mike Harrison. I live on Arrowhead Drive. I'm the highest house in the neighborhood, so I don't get any power water. You guys have to bring it to me. I just found that out tonight, so I learned something. I still don't understand the easement. You know, I thought it was state law. I don't own the 35 feet in front of my house or whatever the distance is. But for people who have to come in, they can come in and do whatever they want. And they did that one time without asking me. I'm still having problems going. It was 15 years ago. We had a line break. We had underground cable all through our house, our neighborhood, out in the circle, a mile circle. And my driveway is still shifting. And I could tell you for sure because when I'm so long, it just keeps shifting. So this shifting, after you come in and do the stuff, it's going to shift up 4 years, and then it's going to shift again. One of the questions, where did you put the rock underneath the pipe and then over top the pipe?
Yes.
So you got a rock foundation underneath it?
Rock bedding, rock embedment zone, and then the roadways generally.
Okay. And so you guys mentioned something about the drain tiles and the wetlands and stuff like that. The subdivision that's behind us, what's the name of that subdivision?
Eleanor State.
Okay, they've got wetlands and flood problems or something like that. One of their drain tiles years ago broke, and it comes right through our thing, through Eagle Drive, all the way down Crouse Diamond Lake. I don't know if they ever got it fixed. I don't think they did. So whether you guys are aware of it, that's something that you're going to really have to deal with. You know, so are you just going to cover that up? I mean, what's going to happen there? And you'll run that
survey.
What?
We do drain tile surveys because that.
So are you aware of that drain tile?
No, not right now. We haven't done the survey, but with our 55 miles of pipe, drain tiles are, that's an issue that we run into a lot.
Yeah,
a lot of them are unmarked.
It comes from the subdivision behind us, all the way across right through the middle. And it comes right through our park and what? Cover that. And the big concern is, are we going to lose electricity? I mean, we should. There's no reason you could accidentally cut a line. You should know where the lines are before you start digging. Is that correct?
Yes.
In other words, you said, okay, we've got to cut this line to dig here, so you're going to be without electricity so many hours, you'll let us be aware of that. Because we do have seniors and all kinds of stuff. You know, people hook up to dialysis.
All the utilities will
That's
be
our water.
surveyed ahead of, as part of design. That's the next step, is we're going to go and survey all the existing utilities. And then once construction starts, the contractor is required to locate all the utilities and protect them.
It's just like fuel, I mean,
Right.
you know where that type of thing. And the other thing is, I still can't get it comprehended why you don't have 35-foot easement on Diamond Lake Road, just like you have 35-foot easement in their neighborhood.
They do. They do. They have 100 feet.
They're just not allowed to dig it.
I mean, you have to get approval from them, but from us, you don't have to get approval. This is the only approval we have to give them.
That's right.
But from them, you don't want to deal with them, but you have to deal with these people.
No, LCDOT doesn't want us within their standard right-of-way because, and they want us outside, so we would have to obtain easement. That's the issue. And
Why don't they want you in the right way?
Because there are future plans that they may expand Diamond Lake Road, and when they do, we have to move our pipe. And we can't move a pipe that's serving an entire town. So to protect them, they have no imminent plans to do so. But they have asked us, like they have with every project we've done, and we've gone toe-to-toe with them, because Lake County is actually one of our members, that we should be able to be right in their current right-of-way. But they want us to be outside of their standard right-of-way width, which means we would have to acquire easements on private property, which is not what we want to do. So we would rather be...
Private property has to give you 35 feet.
They do not.
Why not?
They don't have an easement. We would have to acquire the easement through negotiation.
If I own this house right here, I have to give you 35 feet.
No, you don't.
I do if it's...
If you have an easement there already on your title, yes, you're right, then we have to come in. But they don't have on their property, on their plat of survey, there is no existing easements. So we would have to go in and negotiate an easement.
I don't know. I don't know if you're right on that. I don't know.
No, I read online. Okay.
Well, anyhow,
No, good question. And are there questions for Coach
Yes, that's it. I just, you're going across Diamond Lake someplace, right?
Yes.
Okay. So we're going to be stuck at that intersection.
It was a tough decision.
We're either going down Diamond or Eagle.
And I don't think that, I know where I was going. Originally, we had, I think, one meeting, 83 has been on an extension, 53 has been on an extension since the book, since 1973 or something, and they wanted to kill me. I went to all those meetings. They were actually going to cut and do a different route and take my house, and they changed it. And they've already got the land up through there. You can see the signs where it's supposed to be. I don't think they're going to ever do anything with Diamond Lake. So when you made that comment, I don't know who you're talking to, because there is no reason to be doing that in the next 20 years, you know.
Thank you, sir.
But they're going to do 53. They're definitely not going to do Diamond Lake.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your comment.
Hi, I'm Bruce Meyer. At the beginning of this conversation, Grant said they installed under all conditions. Yet, Diamond Lake is a barrier. But if we look back to 2016, they had a like situation with the Lake County Forest Service. They reached an agreement with them whereby they purchased the easement and also replanted a large number of trees to the Forest Reserve's satisfaction. If we look at the right-of-way along Diamond Lake Road, which is supposed to be 100 feet, that berm and those trees probably extend onto that right-of-way, which, according to my understanding, in Lake County, isn't legal. And should that become an issue, they can be removed. I think that needs to be taken into consideration. And as I said before, there is precedent for doing that. Earlier, somebody mentioned before that another reason reason was the traffic on Diamond Lake Road. You're going to head up Indian Creek Road, and I would guess without actual evidence that at least 50% to 66% of the traffic in Diamond Lake Road turns onto Indian Creek Road, so you're going to have the same ongoing issue there. So I think that's a non-event. And with that, I'll shut up.
Did you want to address that?
Address the use of Indian Creek Road.
Diamond Lake Road. That's his first comment.
The berm.
The berm. The berm.
The berm on the west side.
On the west side.
The west side of the road.
On the west side?
Yes.
Is that behind
Some of the homes, yeah.
It's
That
behind
was my
some of the
really
homes.
quick question. I also have a scenic easement on my plot of survey and that of my neighbor.
Those are other things we're dealing with.
Sir, if you want to come up to
I do want to apologize for the confusion before calling me Grant and him Bill. That I very much apologize. We have the wrong name tags in front of each other.
It's okay. Yeah, I'm new to this as well. I'm just trying to understand. But I'm an Arrowhead resident, and my backyard also is on that berm. And from what I checked on my plot of survey, we do have a scenic easement, and yeah, my backyard faces that berm with the Diamond Lake Road. So all those trees that provide cover during winter summer for us mostly. What's the story with that? And is that going to be touched, untouched? How far does it go into our backyards? Stuff like that.
Thank you.
So the berm.
That's Diamond Lake.
So, per the topo that we've obtained for Diamond Lake, you see these are the right-of-way lines for Lake County's website. We are showing portions of the toe coming up to the right-of-way line, and then that berm rises up. Still a lot of trees on there. So one of the options we were looking at was this west side of Diamond Lake, trying to squeeze it in. Like Bill said, the portion between the pavement and the right-of-way seems to be not going to be allowed per LCDOT. Even if we were, that was initially what we were looking at. We do have the electrical wires that we have to come beyond. There are some buried utilities there. So we would likely be right up against the toe, where trees, would have to be removed at the immediate base of it, and then digging into that toe, which would, we'd have to look at making sure we didn't undermine the hill at all. If, as Lake County's requesting, we have to look outside this right-of-way and come onto property, we're saying about 35 feet from the existing property line in, and that is, the majority of the berm. We'd have to remove trees. We couldn't replace the trees. The berm, we'd have to work with that as far as what would go back.
So you're going 35 feet in from that line into our property?
That's what we'd be looking for the Diamond Lake option, either east or west side. We'd have to be 35 feet outside this existing line.
I think we'd all pick the east side.
We'd all pick the east side.
Of course. If you are forced to build this and this does get pushed through, you're not replanting the berm?
If the Eagle Drive get selected?
I'm not familiar with this map, but where's the school?
Yeah, that's a good.
The school is a good starting point. Yeah, so that corner. Can you zoom in? I'm sorry.
To the school?
I guess to the Diamond Lake portion of the school, yeah, where that entrance would be.
It's right there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Can you point with your cursor where that's going to be, where the pipe is planning to be? That's the east side, so you're talking about the west side, right?
We would be working through, if we had to go down Diamond Lake, we haven't picked the side of the road yet. We have the challenges of, working with the LCDOT rules and coming out on the east side. That 35 feet, does get into people's front yards, where you have trees coming down here.
Those houses all set back.
Those houses are all back. You're about 80 feet away.
Yeah.
I'm on the west side.
Right, and so on the west side, again, 35 feet. I think that's your backyard.
That would be, it's a whole
If anyone has a question, we have to have, please come to the podium.
I'm saying you're gonna have to come down Diamond Lake, period, one way or the other, right?
North of Eagle. If we go to Eagle Drive, you don't need to go.
North of Eagle,
you 35 feet of people's property.
North of Eagle, you've got to cross over to Diamond Lake to get to Eagle. 6083, you're at.
No, not if you're on the east
north
side.
of this, right?
On the east
Either way, you're going north.
Coming down Diamond Lake,
We'll be completely in easement on private property, going from 83 around the corner through the school property, through an easement, not in the right of way.
Mm-hmm.
Easement all the way down to Eagle Drive, and then we hope to cross over and follow Eagle.
Is it possible to show us this with the cursor? Would it be possible to show what he just said?
That's what Matt said.
Zoom in and go north a little bit. This would help a lot.
I think we're asking two different things too, but to the gentleman in the back, we'd be working with the school to come up Diamond Lake on the east side, then cross. From this point, this decision point, it's either Eagle or we'd have to decide either 35 feet into the east side, 35 feet into the west side. And then the challenges we were just talking about, the berm and the trees on the west side, the trees and working in people's front yards on the
Why wouldn't you just stay on the east side and come straight down?
Yeah.
You're already there. The easements from all those. Go up the map.
I'm saying you're into people's front yards, but you're into a lot of people's front yards coming down Eagle.
Sir, you're next.
Thank you. TJ Ellison, I live on Arrowhead. So I have a different perspective than you have. I think that if you're going down Diamond Lake, there would be a group of people like this with the same arguments. For me, going down Diamond would impact my backyard and the berm. And also, the challenge would be I have a large pond that's fully on my property that I have to maintain, and it could be devastated by construction coming into that berm. So I don't necessarily am for the project going through your community, but I obviously oppose it going down Diamond because it would negatively impact a lot of vegetation that they have to replace. They don't have to replace going through a community.
If they stay on the east side, it wouldn't hit your
Okay, we have a speaker at the podium who has the floor.
And okay, to the east side, you're still going to have the same group of people that have come in, have the same opposition, right? But for me personally, Diamond would not be a good choice because of the impact it has on my property and the possibility of having a pond, right? So my perspective is for this project. I just wanted to make my statement for Diamond Lake, right? That it doesn't work for me and other property owners that are up against there that have property that come right in that berm and take with all our privacy.
Thank you. And is there anyone else who would like to speak? Run up. person at the podium has the floor.
Hi, I'm Frances Meyer. I'm on Eagle Drive. If you go down Eagle Drive, it's my understanding we have all of our utilities are buried. It's my understanding they're all on one side of the street. So whenever you have to dig on Eagle Drive, the power is going to be interrupted for the houses on the other side. And that's our well, that's our air conditioning, that's our heating, that's our cooking, that's everything. Our internet. That's a lot of people, and we have some elderly people, not me, but we have elderly people in our area without air conditioning on a hot summer day for 4 or 5 or longer hours. It's not conducive to a good quality of life. If you look at the diagram you have there, as we're looking at it, not looking at the west side of the street, but the east side of the street, where the school is, where you're already starting to come down that line. Those houses, and it's a very few houses in number. Have you checked to see how many houses they were? There are 9 houses on the other side of the street.
Yes.
Okay, between there and Indian Creek. They're all set way back. It would be on the easement, as you're saying.
We would have to get it.
You would have, right. But it would be on that one. You'd be going in a straight row. I don't understand why you're looking at Diamond Lake Road with 100 houses. With Eagle Drive with 100 houses. Thank you. And I'm glad you live in Lake Zurich and are getting good water. That's fine. I'm glad you are. But we're going to be very inconvenienced. Not fair.
2 of our board members live in Lake Zurich, 3 do not.
Okay, well that's okay.
I don't live in
Thank
Zurich.
you. So thank you for indicating that then.
Can I address 2 things? So we locate the electrical, gas, all those utilities are located before we do the work. The contractor, we have no intention of cutting off anyone's electricity or gas. There's no intention.
How do you get from one side of the street to the other?
These guys, you should see what we've worked in. I mean, these guys are good. We've worked in a 24-inch high-pressure gas main that exploded. It'd be unbelievable. We work right under that. We've worked around all these utilities. I also don't want to paint too glossy a picture. There is a chance that we get an electrical service. I'm not going to say that won't happen. But no, it's not planned that we would do any interruption of your utilities.
Don't forget the gas mains.
And same with the gas main. Last thing we want to hit the gas main. The other thing is, I'm hearing it again and again, and we can just disagree. That's what we can disagree. We already do, I think. But when we talk about the 9 houses on one side or the 9 houses on the other, those people they're less number than you, okay? But we have to purchase easements from them on their private property. If we use Eagle right-of-way, that is owned by the township. It is not your private property. We're not going on your private property. We're using public property. So I understand it impacts more people on Eagle Drive, all that. I'm right with you. I totally understand that. But I just want you to understand that's the big difference for us. Obtaining easements on private property from people who don't necessarily want to give it to us. And they're asking, why can't we get water? Geez, you're coming on our property. Or do we go down a public right-of-way that's public property? That's fundamentally why we want to go down Eagle.
That's why I can't understand.
Sir,
They not have,
if you go to the podium.
why did I not have 35 feet like we have? Why do those 9 houses not have 35 feet like we have?
I don't know I don't understand your situation.
He's got 35 feet of easement.
His subdivision has that easement up front where
And
a buried utility.
houses don't have that.
They don't.
Public domain in every house in the state of Illinois.
No. When they platted your community, I've seen the plat map. It's pretty neat. There's a right-of-way for the road, and on each side of the road, they platted utility easement. That is unique. We haven't seen that before. Diamond Lake Road, no such thing. There is no platted easements for utilities.
Okay, is there anyone else that would like to speak? Sir, that gentleman hasn't spoken yet.
Just real quick, you folks represent us, not the 9 people on the east side of Diamond Lake Road. So think about that when you're looking.
This gentleman and then you, okay?
Hi, my name is Rick Didier. I live on the west side of Diamond Lake Road on Arrowhead Drive. I'm right at the corner. If that goes through and has to go down that side of the road, my whole berm will be gone, all my trees will be gone, all the flowers I plant on there will be gone, and I'll put up a fight and they'll have to take me to court to get my ground. But the only advantages to Eagle, going down Eagle, is we would have hydrants. That is a big advantage. I was on the fire department for 25 years, and for Long Grove, and shoveling water sucks. There's nothing like a hydrant. So that would be an advantage to us. Do I want any of this? I wish it would all just go away, but it's not going to go away. But I'll fight everything so I don't lose my berm. They won't let me plant trees back on. They're going to take 35 feet of my property. That comes pretty close to my house right there. Mm-hmm. And I don't think anybody else would want that on theirs. If they did go down Eagle, they're going down on an easement. They are not taking property from anybody. So the little inconvenience for 3 months, which is an inconvenience, believe me it is hard. But I would be inconvenienced for as long as I live there. Because they could come on my property, I get to pay the taxes, but they got the easement. They can come on, if they got to fix the water, anytime they want, they can drive in my backyard. So that should be definitely out of the picture. The other side of the road, I feel sorry for them too. They've got their houses that are set back, it's a little different. But I feel sorry for them all. I wish it could go away, but it's not going. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, so my name's Kevin Nolan. I just wanted to address your comment that you don't want to go down Diamond Lake Road because you have to purchase easements. But I understand that. But in that situation, the people that are going to be inconvenienced are going to be compensated. In our situation where you want to go down Eagle Drive because it's cheaper and easier for you, every single person that you're fucking over gets no compensation from you whatsoever. And that's outrageous.
But you're not losing any property.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Sorry, please come up.
I'm another Arrowhead Drive, west side of Arrowhead Drive guy. Just like Rick said, I think for us the inconvenience, it's not an inconvenience, it's a permanent impact to us, right? So if they come in and do this on the berm, rip down our trees, that berm trees is a total barrier for us. Privacy against the road, it provides. That's why we live there. If that berm wasn't there, we wouldn't be there. Put it that way. So if they were to go in and destroy that for us, that would be a huge impact to us. Certainly would decrease the property value. I don't think there's any type of compensation to get that would really be just getting a couple $100,000. It's not worth it. So understand the impact to everybody else in the street. It impacts us too, bring up the street. I think that's a temporary inconvenience. Assuming the engineers do their job and not going to impact anything, wells, electricity, people are going to be able to drive to work, I'm sure these guys know what they're doing. But again, I think the impact to the 9 people that live on Arrowhead Drive, that burn would be significantly greater than the impact to everybody else that might be inconvenienced for a 2 months driving the field. So, and again, like Rick said, is there another option? I think that's the question too, right? East side of Diamond Lake Road, I vote for that. And anything else would be welcome as well, another option. But people are not here.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? That hasn't spoken yet?
Can we do one more round, or can I just say one more comment?
Quickly, yes.
Thank you.
I think to conclude this, I think it's loud and clear that this pipe should go down Diamond Lake Road on the east side. I don't want to see our entire subdivision, any part of the subdivision, on the berm, not on the berm, on Eagle Drive impacted. It should be down on Diamond Lake Road. There are 9 homes there, 8 of which are inhabited. They're set back. They've got a culvert in the front. They would be compensated. And I almost feel like we, as a subdivision, need to show up at the next Lake Zurich board meeting and state our concerns to the Lake Zurich board, who can then maybe, speak to Jawa. Because if I lived in Lake Zurich and I heard this whole subdivision was being impacted for my water, I would do whatever I could to try to not have it impacted.
With that, I think it concludes public comment, unless anyone else would like. Okay, well, thank you for your time and your public comment. I'm going to go down the next item on the agenda. And instead, we're going to ask for a motion to approve this. It's just to discuss it. Do I need a motion to...
I would like to ask a couple questions.
Sure, we're going to get during discussion.
You can't have a discussion until there's a motion.
So that's why we have to have this motion. Call motion. And I need a second.
I'll second.
Okay, now we can have public discussion. So, Assessor Barrington, do you have any questions?
If I'm understanding correctly, the reason that you can't do Diamond Lake Road easily is because Lake County has plans in the future to possibly expand that. And by you putting your pipe down the right of way, you would potentially have to remove your pipe in the future and then replace it further into somebody's yard, which is a greater expense and problems going forward, similar to what is currently happening on Washington and Route 120 currently, correct?
Washington and Hunt Club, yes.
Trustee Bowman?
The cost of running the pump every day, who pays for that? Is that a bill directly to Lake Zurich, or is it Lake Zurich pays per gallon? Or?
Yeah, so Lake Zurich will pay the water rate, and then they become part of CLC Jawa, so they're a member. And my electrical bill is $1.6 million a year, and we pay all the electricity. They're paying for it ultimately just through the water rate like all of our members.
What's the flow rate on this system daily?
The average flow rate is 20 million gallons of water per day.
Well, per hour or per minute? What's your flow rate on the pumps?
From our water treatment plant, 20 million gallons a day is equal to about 13,000 gallons a minute. That's
how many?
13,000.
17,000?
13,000.
I'm assuming those are variable speed pumps.
They are.
That operate. And just a quick question. construction equipment that's on the sites every day, where is that going to be stored? Is there a designated area to remove it from the subdivision and clear it out after they're done for the day and the trenches are filled, filled?
Yeah, generally the construction equipment, they will put the gravel back into the surface of the road, button up the loose trenches, and generally, unless any other requirements, that construction equipment can be in a designated area in the subdivision, but off to the side of the road where traffic can still get through. I'll run to my front. We understand
Just rough calculations. Instead of running down Diamond Lake Road directly and coming in through the subdivision, we have to make an additional right angle and a long radius. And I'm calculating that at about 18 pounds of pressure drop for the distance and the loss. And at 13,000 gallons per minute on a variable speed pump running at about 80% efficiency, that's about 180 additional horsepower to run through that subdivision compared to running down Diamond Lake Road. That's a lot of additional horsepower and energy being wasted. And I'm just asking, does that make sense over running down Diamond Lake Road from the additional cost incurred there and easements over 10 years of efficiency of running these pumps?
Yeah, I think, Trustee, the energy loss for that then is probably...
I can't hear you, I'm sorry.
Yeah, the energy loss that you're referring to through that bend is probably very negligible.
It's about almost 18 pounds.
Through a bend?
Through one radius, 190 and a long radius.
Well, one of the...
Of a 24-inch pipe, right?
The problem at a calculation you have is you did 13,000 gallons per minute. That's what comes out of the plant in Lake Bluff going to 250,000 people. The amount of flow going to Lake Zurich around that bend is
So there's not 13,000 going through the 24-inch pipe? That was my question. What's going through the 24-inch pipe?
It's more 1,000 gallons a minute.
4,000? 1,000. 1,000. I'm sorry.
So just related to that comment, when we compared the two options in terms of the energy loss, they're both very comparable. They're both very comparable in terms of the energy loss because the distance is roughly the same and both of them have some things. At the end of the day, just wanted to emphasize something about the routes. The other routes that we did look at were much longer. We're talking about not just a few hundred feet longer, they're miles longer, right? So that's why at the end of the day, Diamond Lake Road was selected. And the reason we didn't meet with you before we met with all the stakeholders is because we were going down Diamond Lake Road. The reason we identified Eagle Drive is there is going to be a substantial time that will take to acquire these easements. As we mentioned today, there's a major, not just an inconvenience, there's a major disruption to going on the east side or the west side of Diamond Lake Road. It's going to take months to acquire these easements, and many of the property owners that we've talked to feel more, if you're angry today, they're significantly more angry. That is going to delay the project. And when you ask Bill, has there been a cost analysis? The cost of the pipe is the same. Whether we go Eagle Drive or Diamond, the pipe material is roughly the same. What it's going to end up costing is the time. The residents of Lake Zurich, while they're treating the water, it's radium-containing water. The Environmental Protection Agency has said, you need to get off this aquifer. You need to go to a water that does not have radium. So this project, at the end of the day, is going to impact thousands of people in the village of Lake Zurich. And the delay that's caused of acquiring and going through the process of getting easements on Diamond Lake Road is going to delay the project. There's a very good chance if we do that Lake Zurich may not get water by the end of 2028. So while we're asking the trustees today to make a vote, there are many residents that are also part of Gila Township that are going to not just be impacted by cost, but schedule. And those studies are on the Village of Lake Zurich's website that not only show the water quality impact,
of that water, but also the water quantity impact, because the reason Lake Zurich is going to Central Lake County is not only to get better water, but to also have a more sustainable future of having more water available. So at the end of the day, we can, yes, can we design something on Diamond Lake Road? Can we get the permits? It's just going to take longer. And ultimately, many of the property owners, we have to get an easement from each person, whereas on Eagle Drive, it's a public right-of-way. And as Bill mentioned, that's where utilities go.
Lake Zurich had water they've had for 50 years, so what's another 2 months?
I just have one last comment. I'm not a resident of Lake Zurich, and I'm not acquiring this water. I'm storing a well, so there's nothing to gain on it. It's just a comment. I just want to make it. I'm sitting up here because I want to represent Eagle Township, and I've done that for almost 20 years. So you take in all the facts and then make a decision from there. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Brett.
Okay, so I understand that you are going to try to avoid any damage to wells, and you are going to be monitoring them to reduce the possibility of that. But if damage occurs, how is it determined whether or not damage to a well was caused by you?
Yeah, so as Bill mentioned earlier, we have vibration monitoring equipment. So we're monitoring this on a regular basis with the contractor. By the way, just one thing I wanted to put to bed. This project, before we put a shovel into the ground, is going to get permits from the various agencies. We're not going to get your permission today and a backhoe is going to show up tomorrow, right? We have to get permits from all the agencies that are regulating the work that we do. This is a highly regulated industry, right? Not just the IEPA, but there are other industries. So everything that we are going to be doing, it's going to require a permit. So that's kind of one issue. The second thing is there's construction equipment on almost every major street in the United States of America, whether it's replacing mud service lines, water main, pavement. Wells aren't being impacted every single day, right? Every single day you see construction equipment on the various streets. There are a lot of wells on those. And as Bill mentioned, over 50 miles of water main got constructed. Our engineering company is doing construction across the entire state. I have not heard that, unless a well is like within 2, 3 feet or 5 feet of water main, that we're doing a major deep excavation. So we feel very comfortable with this. Now, to address your specific concern, what do we do? We're putting that additional vibration and monitoring equipment. We're going to monitor this to make sure that we're not putting something that's going to cause extra damage. Now, let's say that we do show up and a homeowner reports, hey, something happened to my well. By the way, somebody mentioned something about water quality. This is a drinking water pipe, so there shouldn't be an impact. If the water quality changed within that well, it's probably not something to do with construction. But we will investigate everything. If you come to RRE, who's going to be on site at all times, like Matt mentioned, and say, hey, my well was impacted today, what happened? We're going to investigate that. What we're saying is there could be other reasons other than the water main construction. But this is why we're collecting vibration data. Was there any unusual vibration occurred? Did the contractor show up with heavy equipment? And as Bill mentioned, if we have every interest in addressing your concerns. That's why we're hiring contractors that are bonded and insured to make sure they do that work. Now, if they do damage something, we're going to hold them accountable. We're going to make sure they correct any issues that was caused by the construction. Because at the end of the day, as Bill mentioned, we have a vested interest in making sure you're happy at the end of the day, because we're right here in town working on this entire pipeline project. So it's going to be monitored, it's going to be addressed. If there's an issue, let us know. We'll investigate it right away.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that. I just want to let people know that I am new to this position, but I am trying to take into account everybody's feedback. And so thank you so much for everybody for making this decision. I appreciate it. I've also gone down to some houses on Arrowhead Drive to talk to people, and I have heard many similar concerns that you guys have voiced tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
that I'm Supervisor Wilhoit. I was elected in May. I do represent everyone in this room as well as everyone in Eula Township. We have been working for you. We were the ones that asked for the fire hydrants for you. We are working for ways that would benefit you, because we realize you will be inconvenienced. We do have you in mind. We are listening to you. It's not our goal to, come back and jump back. I think we're here to listen to you and make an informed decision. And that's why we're having these public meetings, to hear what your concerns are and how they can be addressed. Thank you for coming today. I appreciate it. And we represent everyone in Eula Township. Do you have anything to say?
Oh, no. Just typing.
Trustee Sims?
I do. I guess I'm baffled, and I think the topic has come up in here, is this pipe is going to run through your subdivision, and as I read the frequently asked questions, John does not provide direct, so will residents be able to connect to this line? And John does not provide direct retail water service, only wholesale. And it goes on for residents to connect, a local governmental entity would need to construct a distribution system, delivery structure, and required pump station. Why can't Lake Zurich, which is an article in the Herald, where they bought, and I think Java has bought, a 1-acre parcel, right, that's going to be available for an acre on Route 83 and Mundelein to house a brick pump station to help push Lake Michigan water uphill to Lake Zurich. That's there. Lake Zurich's got the building ability, and why couldn't Lake Zurich work a deal with these residents and enable them to connect, do the billing, and provide that service?
Lake Zurich would have to...
I can't hear you. Can you speak up, please?
Lake Zurich would have to be annexed into the village. Your community would have to be...
frequently asked questions didn't say that.
Oh, I'm the one that wrote the FAQ, and it took a lot of time to try to word things exactly right. It's amazing how difficult it is so that people don't misinterpret it. But I'm telling you factually that we cannot provide retail service to any group of people. We have to provide it to a member or Lake County who is a member. So they would have to be annexed into either Mundelein or Lake Zurich or one of our other members. I don't know how that would work. Or Lake County would have to build a distribution system and a receiving structure to take the water. That's just how it would have to be.
What's the ability? I'm a Hawthorne Woods resident, and you told us earlier that Hawthorne Woods has bought X amount of capacity. These people are adjacent to Hawthorne Woods. What is Hawthorne Woods doing with it? What's their intent? I don't know how you all would react to that. But that availability is out there. Is it proprietary to Hawthorne Woods?
So what's happening with Hawthorne Woods specifically is we have an agreement with Hawthorne Woods to allow Lake County to provide water to Hawthorne Woods if they want to use it, after they get an allocation, after they figure out where they want to use it. So that'll be a contracted sale to the village, to an entire entity, and it'll be on a wholesale basis from the county to Hawthorne Woods. So in this case, the county would have to, there's no distribution system. It's the fundamental problem. There's not even a distribution system and pipeline in place.
Well, your distribution is going to run. It's going to run through their neighborhood.
The pipeline will go through the neighborhood, and we can provide a connection T someday in the future when you want to build a distribution system and get annexed into a member community or get the county to serve you water, then you could connect to that team.
So Lake Zurich can't take them under their wing?
I don't speak for Lake Zurich.
We cannot. I mean, I don't think the laws would allow us to annex in that far away.
we're not in close proximity. So that's why we would recommend you would potentially annex into a Lundaline, a Hawthorne Woods, somebody who has the allocation already, somebody who has the ability to put that distribution in, and then serve through the CLC Java.
The other thing I just want to clarify, there's been a lot of talk about getting the water. Everything has to go through the Illinois Department of Natural Resources to get an allocation. Village of Lake Zurich applied and received an allocation. So some of the things that Bill talked about, you can't, it's not that the agency doesn't want to. They're regulated by the Illinois Department of Natural Resources. If you don't have an allocation to get Lake Michigan water, you can't get Lake Michigan water.
Any other questions, Trustee Pence?
Well, I still want to see a cost analysis too. What's the difference between you're saying it's the same?
Well, the material, the big difference between the two is the cost of time, right? We know everything is going up.
Not for a cost analysis, it shouldn't cost you time. What you're talking about is the ability to work a deal with some of these people. I want to know the dollars and cents between why you came to Eagle Drive versus Diamond Lake. Lake County has already approved Diamond Lake. There's got to be some cost differential that's driving your process here.
It's the cost of time, sir. The cost of time. So you're right. We can provide you with the construction costs for both options. We don't have those easements. We have to go to each of those property owners and negotiate a deal. That not only is there the cost of these easements, but there's the cost of time. So we can give you our best guesstimate based on what we know, but the honest truth is we don't know what that is going to be. It could take a month, it could take 9 months to get. And so with inflation, we're also making a guess as to what that cost of it. We estimate about every single day we don't have a pipe in the ground, it's $6,000 a day, just the cost of inflation on the entire program. So, yeah, we can put together numbers based on some assumptions. The reality is we do know it's going to cost more to go to Diamond Lake Road.
Can I just say one thing? First of all, thank you, Mr. Sands, because I think you're right on the subject. Okay. You have to give us some kind of cost analysis, even if it's an estimate. We know that going down Diamond Lake Road is going to be cheaper. Or, I'm sorry, going down Eagle Drive is going to be cheaper than Diamond Lake Road. And I don't think the board, you can't take a vote on this whole issue until they start giving us specific numbers. They're throwing out all kinds of vague stuff, but there's no concrete numbers that we see. This is a $154 million project, and you know what the numbers are, what they're estimated to be. And so how can this board take a vote if you're not giving us any numbers? I think that's totally wrong.
Would that influence, like, is this about what the cost savings ultimately are going to be for the residents of Lake Zurich that are paying for this project?
And they're getting the water too, though.
I'm sorry?
But they're also gaining the benefit from it.
That's correct.
Of having the water. So it's not.
But are the concerns, I mean, the residents of Lake Zurich have the right to know what the cost savings are, right? Because they're paying for it. But are the concerns today?
But you're coming down our street with no benefit to us. Obviously, like who's making the money off of this?
Nobody's making money, sir.
Okay.
The residents of Lake Zurich that are going to pay more rates.
Thank you.
All right, but just give us the numbers.
Okay, we can provide the numbers.
Thank you.
But you're using the easy
Trustee Sands, do you have anything else?
No.
You're not
Trustee
paying.
Zeigler?
Lake Zurich's paying.
Trustee
Have them
Zeigler?
pay for the easements, whatever it costs. Tell them.
Trustee Zeigler has.
It goes.
Trustee Zeigler has. I want to thank everyone.
Sir, you need to come down.
I want to thank everyone for coming. We have been reading your emails. We are taking everything you're saying into account. I want to mirror what Lori's saying. It's very helpful for us as we weigh and consider this. I do want to see if there are any, if you can answer any questions about, has CLC Jawa had to secure easements on people's private property for other communities in your history? And if you have any experience or anything you can share about that. And then my other question is where, if we were to say not approve Eagle Drive and it goes somewhere down Diamond Lake, either east or west,
where berms and trees are removed, presumably there is some attempt to try and, obviously you can't replace a 50-year-old tree, but is there a responsibility to try and make that as whole as possible? I know you can't do it actually on the easement, but somewhere else on the property.
So we do have easements throughout the system, and those easements we have secured in various ways. We eventually can get the easement. In terms of Eagle Drive, so it's a negotiation process that we have with the property owner, and depending on where the pipe alignment ends up, we can't necessarily have a berm on top of the pipe. And in terms of trees and other vegetation, it's just part of the negotiation. So, I mean, this is an awkward position I'm in because we have some of those people we might be negotiating with. But, we might be negotiating cost for taking down the trees. We might negotiate putting in smaller diameter trees in other parts of the property. We have to eventually negotiate out with the easement owner because we want to be fair in the process as I've described in the FAQ. So we would do our best, but, that's basically how we assign easement.
Any other questions? Yes. Okay, with that, I'd like a motion to postpone the decision.
Motion.
Second. So, one thing, so you're going to then move on the actual postponement until, so the March 11th will be postponed until March 11th, right?
It would be longer though. We don't take the information.
Right. So you can't, then we'll have to be postponed indefinitely. And then we can put on whatever. You have to specify when you're postponing until. So if you don't have a specific date, then you have to use the term indefinitely.
Okay, so let's postpone it to March 11th and see if we have any information that can, would like to postpone it again. Is that possible? Okay, I need a motion to postpone the decision on March 11th.
Motion.
Second.
Okay. Trustee Ziegler? Yes. Trustee Sampson? Trustee Glass?
Yes.
Trustee Bowman?
Yes.
Supervisor Bowman?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. So, is there any need for anyone to call the closed session? Policy end at 9:39. Second. Any opposed?